जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरा वनचारी यमुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरा वनचारी यमुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा गोपी जना वल्लभा राधा गोपी जना वल्लभा जय निताय पतिता पावन गौर हरि जय निताय पतिता पावन गौर हरि प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरण अरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस शिष्यमय भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। श्रील रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीवा गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाचर गोस्वामी प्रभुगण की जय। प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्तविंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री एकचक्र धाम की जय। गंगा मैया की जय। यमुना मैया की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरू श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे पंचतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपा स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्। So we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 26, verse number 20. Vishwamatma gatam vyanjan kutastho jagat ankura स्वातेजसा पिबति व्रम आत्मा प्रश्वापनम तमा। विश्वमात्मा गतं व्यञ्जन कूटस्थो जगत् अंकुरा स्वातेजसा पिबति व्रम आत्मा प्रश्वापनम तमः। विश्वमात्मा गतं व्यञ्जन कूटस्थो जगत् अंकुरा स्वातेजसा पिबति व्रम आत्मा प्रश्वापनम तमः। Synonyms: Vishwam, the universe; Atmagatam, contained within itself; Vyanjan, manifesting; Kutastaha, unchangeable; Jagat Ankuraha, the root of all cosmic manifestations; Swatejasa, by its own effulgence; Apibat, swallowed; Tivram, dense; Atma Prashvapanam, which had covered the Mahatattva; Tamaha, darkness. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus, after manifesting variegatedness, the effulgent Mahatattva, which contains all the universes within itself, which is the root of all cosmic manifestations and which is not destroyed at the time of annihilation, swallows the darkness that covered the effulgence at the time of dissolution. Purport. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is ever existing, all blissful and full of knowledge, his different energies are also ever existing in the dormant stage. Thus, when the Mahatattva was created, it manifested the false ego and swallowed up the darkness which covered the cosmic manifestation at the time of dissolution. This idea can be further explained. A person at night remains inactive, covered by the darkness of night. But when he is awakened in the morning, the covering of night or the forgetfulness of the sleeping state disappears. Similarly, when the Mahatattva appears after the night of dissolution, the effulgence is manifested to exhibit the variegatedness of this material world. Once again, translation. Thus, after manifesting variegatedness, the effulgent Mahatattva, which contains all the universes within itself, which is the root of all the cosmic manifestation, and which is not destroyed at the time of annihilation, swallows the darkness that covered the effulgence at the time of dissolution. So it's Sankhya, very complex. There is a description of Mahatattva here. I was thinking to refer to a couple of verses that Prabhupada speaks more on Mahatattva to further understand this topic. This is also from 3rd canto, 5th chapter. Prabhupada speaks more on the subject matter. Translation of this verse. O great sage, this is a conversation between Maitreya Muni and Uddhav. O great sage, kindly narrate how the Supreme Personality of Godhead sorry, it's 3527. Thereafter, this Maitreya Muni is speaking, influenced by the interactions of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter, called the Mahatattva, became manifested. So this is a description of how Mahatattva comes into existence. The Supreme Lord, his glands mixed with the eternal time, then the Mahatattva becomes manifest, and Mahatattva is referred here as the sum total of all the matter. And it is said from the Mahatattva, for all the cosmic manifestation comes from the Mahatattva. So influenced by the interaction of eternal time, the supreme sum total of matter called the Mahatattva became manifested. And in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord, sowed the seeds of universal manifestation out of his own body. So how it is described is, we know that the universes comes from the pores of Mahavishnu. So here Maitreya Muni is describing how the Lord sowed the seeds into Mahatattva. From Mahatattva comes the universes. Once again, it is the Mahatattva is the linking between Mahavishnu and the manifestation of the universes. If you see once again translation, the Supreme Lord, um, once in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord, sowed the seeds of universal manifestation out of his own body. And if you see the purport, and this verse and the next verse describe little more about where the Mahatattva lies and how the Mahatattva is also the all-pervading principle. In due course of time, the impregnated material energy was manifested first as the total material ingredients. Everything takes its own time to fructify, and therefore the word kala kodita, influenced by time, is used herein. The Mahatattva is a total consciousness because a portion of it is represented in everyone as the intellect. This is another thing Prabhupada says. The Mahatattva is the total consciousness because a portion of it is represented in everyone as the intellect. We see how Prabhupada is speaking about how Mahatattva is the all-pervading principle also. It's a little difficult concept. I'm just sharing whatever I could grasp from this topic. Like it is described, there are 24 elements, 5 Gyanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 senses, 5 object of the senses. Um, and then there is uh, mind, intelligence, ego, and uncontaminated consciousness. Another place Prabhupada says he described uncontaminated consciousness as, sorry, contaminated consciousness. He describes contaminated consciousness as Mahatattva. So how the element of Mahatattva is one of the 24 elements that is also present in all living entities. And there is something more that connects the dots in the next verse. I will continue reading. The Mahatattva is the total consciousness. It is actually, um, it is in between material and spiritual. But because there is a material angle to it, it's also called contaminated consciousness. The Mahatattva is the total consciousness because a portion of it is represented in everyone as the intellect. The Mahatattva is directly connected with the supreme consciousness of the Supreme Being. So Mahatattva is the one which comes directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. And the seed is sown and the universe comes out. The seed of universe is sown. Mahatattva is directly connected with the supreme consciousness of the Supreme Being. But still it appears as matter. The Mahatattva or shadow of pure consciousness is the germinating place for all creation. Everything emanates from Mahatattva. But just like we see, none of the creation takes place without the intervention of the Lord. So Mahatattva also cannot create universes, cannot do anything unless the Lord interferes. Lord puts the seed, universes comes out. Just like we see, there is, Maitremuni describes further from ether influenced by the time factor and the glance of the Lord comes air. From air influenced by the time factor glance of the Lord comes fire. Fire interact with the time factor glance of the Lord comes water. Water interact with the glance of the Lord, the time factor becomes earth. So in that way, everything requires the Lord's intervention. Nothing material can also exist without the Lord's intervention. And how he intervenes is he pours the seed into the Mahatattva. Mahatattva is directly connected to the Supreme Consciousness or the Supreme Lord. And Mahatattva acts as a germinating place for all the creation to come out. So that's how it is also described as the sum total of material existence. Mahatattva or the shadow of pure consciousness is the germinating place of all creation. It is pure goodness with the slight addition of the material mode of passion, and therefore activity is generated from this point. The next verse also speaks little bit on the subject matter of Mahatattva. Thereafter, the Mahatattva differentiated itself into many different forms as the reservoir of the would-be entities. All different forms comes out, whether it is the universes, everything or anything material comes out from this Mahatattva. Thereafter, Mahatattva differentiated itself into many different forms. It's like sum total, and all the varieties come. That is what the current verse is also describing, the variegatedness from the Mahatattva. The Mahatattva is chiefly in the mode of ignorance, and it generates the false ego. From Mahatattva comes false ego. And um, the first line of purport is very nice. We will read that. It is the plenary expansion of the personality of God. Mahatattva is plenary expansion of Krishna with full consciousness of creative principles and the time for fructification. Purport: the Mahatattva is the medium between pure spirit and material existence. And like we also know, even in our bodies, Mahatattva is there, which connects um, the soul to the false ego. Mahatattva principle is there. We can directly say false ego connects the body to the soul, or false ego and Mahatattva is the contaminated consciousness which connects. At that layer, Mahatattva is there in all of us. The Mahatattva is the medium between pure spirit and material existence. In other words, Krishna does not directly comes in contact with matter. So the link between Krishna and matter, Mahatattva. Likewise, the link between pure spirit and material existence. That link is Mahatattva. And Mahatattva's expansion is false ego. And that's how false ego we also interchangeably use as a link between the soul and the body. And likewise, we ourselves, the pure soul, is also connected to the subtle body, false ego, and that connection, link between subtle matter and the soul is Mahatattva. And same is the link between Vishnu, Mahavishnu, and the universes. So it is directly connected. So it's like uh, the Lord sowed the seed in the universes, Mahatattva creates universes. It is a junction of matter and spirit, where from the false ego of the living entity is generated. From Mahatattva is the junction between the spirit and matter. And from this, the false ego of the living entity is created. Everything that happens within the body is connected to the universal creation, always. Um, just like we say, this is a technical section. Just like we say, for example, a demigod took charge of a particular, say, eyebrow of the universal form. And because he's sitting on the eyebrow of the universal, different demigods take different positions in the universal form. Whatever position they take, that influences our bodies. So we say there is a demigod in charge of every single activity of our body: closing of eyes, eating, evacuation, walking. There is demigod like controlling. How? Because they take charge in that particular anga of the universal form. So whatever is happening, Mahavishnu interacts with Mahatattva. Mahatattva is the plenary expansion of Mahavishnu, plenary expansion of Krishna. It is material and spiritual by nature. Prabhupada says in between. It's a link. And from there, false ego is generated, which is the total false ego of the universe. We see that universe also has a layer of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, goes from gross to subtle. Same thing happens within the body also. So our body is actually the manifestation of what is happening at the universal level. Mahatattva is there, intelligence, total intelligence is there, total false ego is there, total mind is there, total elements is there, everything is there within the body also. So the living entities are differentiated parts and parcels of the personality of Godhead. Once again, second line. It is the junction of matter and spirit where from the false ego of the living entity is generated. All living entities are differentiated parts and parcels of the personality of Godhead. Just like, there is a soul, and then around the soul, which is Aham bija pradapita. Then the whole existence, creation. Likewise, that seed is given by the Lord for the universes also. All living, okay, under the pressure of false ego, the conditioned soul, all the part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, claim to be the enjoyers of material nature. Today morning, I was listening to one beautiful lecture by Prabhupada. It was connected to Lord Nrsimhadev. And Prabhupada says the goal of life, the goal of all activity is to satisfy Krishna. And Prabhupada then he said, but Krishna is Atmanam, Krishna is self-satisfied. So a person who is self-satisfied, how can we satisfy him? How can we satisfy somebody who is completely satisfied? And then Prabhupada continued, he said, actually, when we try to satisfy Krishna, that is the way that we satisfy ourselves. Because I mean, Prabhupada was giving one angle, I mean, a different point of time. Prabhupada gives different angles of very vast philosophy. So Prabhupada was giving the principle of how everyone is looking for satisfaction. And we can become satisfied by satisfying Krishna. So Prabhupada is bringing this principle. Everything is meant to satisfy Krishna, but how can we satisfy Krishna who is self-satisfied? So actually, by trying to satisfy Krishna, we will satisfy ourselves. And then Prabhupada says, but if we try to satisfy the senses, then we become dissatisfied. And he was bringing this principle of satisfaction, dissatisfaction. Satisfaction comes by satisfying Krishna, and dissatisfaction comes by satisfying the senses. And then Prabhupada was bringing the point of how every living entity is controlled by the three modes of material nature, by the influence of Maya. And because of the influence of Maya, which is mode of passion, mode of ignorance, mode of goodness, one is forced to satisfy the senses. And that Maya is very difficult to overcome. It's like a natural force that hankers for selfish enjoyment, independent of Krishna. And as soon as we look after that selfish enjoyment, immediately we become dissatisfied. And then Prabhupada connected this to how one can again become satisfied from one's dissatisfied position. And then he quoted 529 and he says, Bhokta Ramya Tapasam, Krishna is the enjoyer. Krishna is meant to be enjoyed. Connecting the same principle of how everything is meant to satisfy Krishna. Then he said, Bhokta means enjoy. Bhokta Ramya Tapasam. The purpose of everything we do is to make Krishna the Bhokta, enjoyer. And then he says, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. When we see him as the proprietor, anxieties will go away. But the moment we start claiming ourselves as a proprietor, again, so much anxiety will come. Bhoktaram Yagyatapasa, Suhuridam Sarva Bhutana. And that's how we become Shantir. When one considers me as the enjoyer, as the friend, as the proprietor, Shanti, then he will be peaceful. When he connects everything to Krishna, Krishna is the doer. Today we were reading a quote. Every day we read Prabhupada's quote for the day. Today we were reading the quote and Prabhupada was mentioning suffering. Prabhupada mentioning suffering is also should be seen as Krishna's mercy. And then in a state of suffering also we will be satisfied. Prabhupada, I mean, everything was connected to satisfaction. Prabhupada says, if in a state of suffering you see you see the hand of Krishna. Well, this is Krishna's mercy on us. And then when you connect every situation to Krishna's mercy, then you'll be satisfied in a state of suffering also. Well, Krishna is purifying me because the cause of suffering is also the enjoyer mentality or acting on like the six anarthas, doing something wrong, It can be like any of the six anarthas. We act temporarily. It's apiche suduracharo. Bhajante mam ananya bhag. Sometimes we become angry, reaction will come. But all we need to do is continue practicing, and it will go away. We'll get back to our original state. Whatever advancement we make in our Krishna consciousness, nobody can take away from us. And sometime um, these anarthas, they make our Krishna consciousness sinusoidal. Sometimes we feel high, sometimes we feel low. Why? Because now good part is, encouraging part is, nobody can take our Krishna consciousness away from us. You do 1% of Krishna conscious activity, you cook for Krishna, you chant one extra mantra, you read one extra page, or everything we do, we are adding, we are adding, we are adding, we are adding to our progress. Everything is purified, everything is purifying. And that thing nobody can ever advancement, nobody can take away from us. Sometimes we may not feel good in our Krishna consciousness, but if we are doing our service, we are continuously making progress. So that's why it is said our Krishna consciousness should not be based on feeling, it should be based on seva. Whatever is needed to be done, service continues independent of how we feel about it. And that's how we come out of the mind platform, and the bodily platform also is, despite everything, continue our service, because then we are continuously adding to our progress. But sometimes a piche sudurachara will come. The force will be very like strong. Pride may come, envy may come, and we may act on envy also. Anger may come, we may act on anger also. Immediately we will go through distress. For at least few days, distress will come. It will follow. And so we only trigger our ups and downs of our Krishna consciousness because we are not purified. But the moment, but then the only hope is our practice of Krishna consciousness. Whatever, like Prabhupada says, how advanced we are in Krishna consciousness is based on how much taste we have in our Krishna consciousness. Nobody can take our Krishna consciousness away. Neha Vikramana Shastri Pratyavana Vidyate. You cannot go down 0.01% also. It's like we only keep on making progress. But distress may come because our consciousness, like um, we may, yeah, some sinful activity and it will come. Lust is there, um, acting on ego is there, and there are like so many things that happen at subtle level. Even when our mind is disturbed, um, like sometimes mind is very peaceful, able to focus on Krishna, and sometimes mind is like cranky, and such wonderful, beautiful, service-oriented devotees, the mind may find fault in them also. Why is like this? This is all effect of Kali Yuga. This is all why the mind disturbed, something wrong. Why is mind acting like this? What did I do? Am I following the regulatory principle strictly? Did I do something wrong? Did I um, acted? I mean, because the thing is not, um, it's not possible to act at a level of consciousness that we don't have. So it's not possible to act from the consciousness of pure devotees. We cannot go beyond our consciousness, and that's why it's like it's so subtle that it's like subconscious actions. Subconsciously we are forced to act according to our like combined consciousness. We cannot just change our conscious. It's like gradual process, and many times why we do something, we ourselves don't understand, realize why I'm doing this. It's like it's like we are um like Katputali, we are like forced by the modes to that. So this will be natural till as the heart becomes more and more pure, um, the stability will be more and more. Yeah. Okay. So I think I would like to stop here. I try to touch little bit about Mahatattva, little bit Sankhya section, and see if there any discussion on this or any other topic. Is
Hare
there,
Krishna. Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
sir? Dhanyavad, Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. I was initially completely bewildered when you talk about Sankhya, but I think you connected it very nicely, especially around the last point, which is being a puppet, being a Katmutli, that three modes of material nature. And you shared that point. Sometimes we have Param Vaishnavas, Param Hamsas in front of us, but somehow I'm thinking about myself. Somehow mind just makes very weird things about that person. But for me, the takeaway point was you talked about the seva, irrelevant of whether I like it or I don't like it. I want to do it for the pleasure of Krishna, and I like that point because I feel that is how we can grow above the bodily platform. Otherwise, we are so caught up what I like, what I don't like, what I like, what I don't like. But when we do the things for the pleasure of Krishna, it is so amazing. I was just sharing Sham Kishore Prabhu yesterday. I'm like, Prabhu, you're definitely driving some taste which makes you go every day in the morning altar to wake up the Lord. It's not easy, but
Mm,
there is taste which is. So I feel even at the neophyte level like me, when I go and do some service, it's not that I'm doing it out of love, but there is some taste I think we all have, which is actually keeping us moving towards Krishna consciousness. And I feel um, that is one thing which is so wonderful about Krishna consciousness. That's what I was thinking about.
mm,
The other thing which I was hearing from my spiritual master yesterday was talking about, and Yuval Kishore beautifully mentioned actually during Ram Katha, the
mm,
and you shared about the material existence, right? The desires and all. He was mentioning about the root cause of our suffering is avidya, and that is what again identifying ourselves with the body which you shared. And that is so deep, Prabhu, but somehow I struggle to actually apply that. Just every moment reminding myself I have to come above the bodily platform. I have to start thinking beyond my body. I have to think about something beyond that. How do I get there, Prabhuji?
I think probably it's more of a training. I think it's more of um, despite, like as you mentioned, probably despite uh, difficulties, continuing our services and not acting based on ups and downs. Whether it is one um, one thing that I remember, um, who was mentioning when we face difficulty, suffering, especially in the matter of outreach activities. He was mentioning a lot of like it's a hard task, and whatever suffering comes from there, teaching activities that will help us to go beyond the bodily platform. Do you remember who was sharing? One Bhagavatam class, Chandrasekhar Maharaj.
Ah,
He was mentioning that helps us to go beyond bodily platform. I mean, I myself is in bodily platform, bro. So it's hard to me to say how to go beyond bodily platform. Um, can you say something more on this? Some more instance on this?
I'll share you about Chandramauli Maharaj.
Huh.
I I was a new one attending his class. He shared a beautiful point, and then this is where I want to get in, but I'm not there yet. And again, I'm not comparing, but I know we are supposed to emulate, not um, imitate. Maharaj said one time I went for book distribution to a mall. It was very cold. I was sitting in the car, felt like, you know, is it really needed? Can I chant in the car comfortably? It's so cold out. And he is asking himself, what is one reason which makes me go out? And he just contemplates. And Krishna says within his heart, you should do it for my pleasure. And Maharaj immediately gets out. My realization, at least at my level on that part, is that realization coming up, saying that, oh, you know what, I want to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. I can't hear Paramatma's voice, but fake it until you make it. So just continuously reminding, going above the bodily platform. Like one Vaishnava, I won't quote the name, said a beautiful point. Yesterday was Ekadashi, today is Dwadashi. He said, I'll say in Hindi, एक होता है मन का भूख, एक होता है पेट का भूख. And most of the time we just lingering around the book of the mind, the hunger of the mind. Similar thing actually in Krishna conscious philosophy, when we practice devotional service, when we perform various services, actually it's completely on the mental platform versus actually thinking on the soul platform, like that. So any services which I do, and that is where I struggle. And that is why this concept of growing above bodily platform is so much needed, which I'm not able to do. That's why I'm just stuck at manomaya stage. And that is what I was trying to, and I think you covered that point. It is an abhyasa, and then waiting for Krishna's mercy. Is that what I can put it that way, bro?
One thing I was remembering, I think there was this one senior disciple of Bhakti Tirth Maharaj. One Mataji is there, very senior. I don't remember her name. She's into devotee care committee. Um, Anyways, she was like, she is very dear to Radhanath Maharaj. This is one of the Gita Nagari Yatras that we used to have with Maharaj like few years back. So she was sharing, she was with Maharaj. Maharaj had to come early, breakfast. He didn't take breakfast. He was supposed to take breakfast after like Bhagavatam class. He was about to go back. Then somebody stopped him. They wanted to talk. Then Gitanagari devotees, they said, Maharaj, we need a quick meeting about the difficulties in Gitanagari. We need your guidance. Maharaj said, all right. And it continued. And this Mataji, Eklavya Prabhu's wife, Vrajlila Mataji, I think. So um, they were like telling the devotees, not now, Maharaj has to eat. And it just went on for a few hours. Then somebody else stopped. Something happened. Maharaj was in, like, everybody wanted to speak to him. It became like 3 or 4 p.m. and it was evening class for Maharaj. And she was feeling so bad. Maharaj did not eat anything. Then he gave 3 hours class, very wild kirtan. It became night. Then after class, somebody started talking to Maharaj. And she was mentioning how I was feeling so bad, but how Maharaj was always focusing on the service and pleasing devotees. As the situation comes, he was trying to serve in whatever situation Krishna was putting in front of him. And she was mentioning how Maharaj was beyond the bodily platform, and like representing himself as servant of Prabhupada, as servant of Krishna, as servant of all the devotees, and trying to serve in the best of his capacity, neglecting his own um, personal needs, or um, whatever they may be, and just making himself available, throwing himself out for serving the devotees, conducting his life based on devotees' direction. And she was just mentioning this quality of Maharaj. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, um, this enjoying spirit is what keeps us in, is what, when the enjoying spirit is in the focus, um, then service goes in the background. This one time Gaurang Prabhu was mentioning, he says when we are too attached to our schedules, this is what I want to do. When we are too attached to our schedules, then we miss a chance to serve devotees. Then we miss a chance to act our life according to devotees' desire. And that's a kind of independent nature which halts our progress. But our progress in Krishna consciousness is not based on how I can do more, but how I can please devotees. Then I will be able to do more with absorption. But if I try to do something more based on my understanding, but at the cost of devotees' displeasure, then I can do more, but there won't be absorption. Is it something I spoke about?
Beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Mother Bless Leela. Yes, Mother. That's what I thank you. Is there anything else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances
Simple.
against you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, um, as you were mentioning, like in the process of pleasing devotees and our sadhana, there's always a balance that we need to, like, I'm trying to understand because we have, like, as mothers, as wives, we have other responsibilities also, right? So how can, like, there are certain things that stop us, because we need to call, like, push ourselves to say, hey, this is what I need to do. I have, so in that case, how do we, would that still be considered as not like, hindering our seva, Prabhu? Do I make sense?
Well, it's a very complex question, Mataji. And there are many factors because there is a factor of what maybe what our Shiksha Gurus want us to do, or what temple devotee service they have given us, what responsibility simultaneously I have with my family. So there is never a like clear thing, like, okay, there is, but somehow I feel I can just say the general principle: rest is based on Paramatma's guidance within your heart. General principle: if we conduct our life, okay, let me say this principle with respect to senior devotees. If they want us to do something, but we are attached to, at that point of time, maybe I want to chant some extra rounds. I just want to basically be independent and serve Krishna in the way I feel is the best way to serve Krishna at this point of time. Or I am driven by my own goals. This is what I want to achieve. So when there is like life moving according to devotee's desire, or life moving according to um, like Gaurang Prabhu says, my schedules. In essence, when devotees are when there's a harmony with devotees, our Krishna consciousness is easier. When we do something, but when we are displeasing devotees, then whatever we are doing, we won't be able to absorb there. Especially, Paramatma really helps. When we are very strict about our own schedules, and if somebody is displeased, in our heart we know, I should be going there, I should be doing this. And it's just a matter of listening to the voice. Like inner agitation, inner dissatisfaction is a sign of not willing to sacrifice my personal independence to devotee's pleasure. No, that's the principle I wanted to say, Mataji. I don't know how
Okay,
to
got
say
it.
it.
Yes, I think I got the essence of it. Prabhu. I understand. So just to reconfirm, so one is hearing to the Paramatma. That means to have that connection, to be connected,
Yes.
right? And for that, and also to understand. So, what I missed the train of thought. I think I got the essence from.
Yeah, I think you got the essence. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we'll end here.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams.
Mataji, then we'll pronounce.
Prabhuji, I actually like the point where you said we cannot act on the consciousness at that level of consciousness which we don't have. So I was just trying to see Prabhuji, and I just want to reconfirm. So when we understand the modes are acting on us, and we realize, okay, this is, we don't realize at that moment, but later on, okay, maybe this was not the right thing, and we should not have done it this way, something like that, or I could have done it in a better way. Then, Prabhuji, is it safe for us to think that we should stick to the basics? Just stick to the basics, like, okay, service, like that point which you said. So, our Krishna consciousness is not based on how we feel, but it is based on our service. So when we have our low days, or when we are overwhelmed, that time it's better to think that, okay, we will stick to the basics, means following the authority and doing what is how, like that, those big stones and small stones. So covering the big stones first, doing the main things, and then doing the minute details. Or is it the other way around, Prabhuji? Like sometimes it becomes difficult, Prabhuji. And the class was super nice, and it was of a very high consciousness today. But it becomes very difficult at times, Prabhuji.
Trying my best to understand your question.
Okay. No worries, Prabhuji. Maybe I'll reach out to you some other time. It was just like I was trying to say that sticking to the basics of our Krishna consciousness, because speaking for myself, I don't have that high consciousness all the time. Sticking to the basics will help me move forward.
Now, sticking to the basics, if you said follow authority, pleasing devotees, that's like basic, middle, advanced at all level that is there. So continuing service, we do that at all stages. It's like independent of how I feel. We don't change our decision because I don't feel good today, but because many time our decision has changed because um, if our consciousness is not good, because the uh, um, m- fear of maybe people won't respect me, maybe I won't get what I want, so better let me not face the situation only. So there are change of decision is because of ourselves being the center, being an enjoyer, and how we come out of this whole loop of being in the center is whatever is there, Krishna's arrangement this point of time, I surrender, I do. I surrender, I do. Keep on doing. Not based on today I feel very good, so I want to do this, because many times we will see this consciousness of I am the enjoyer is like circling around us like continuously. I want to be the center, I am the enjoyer, I am the enjoyer, I am the enjoyer. And we just want to be the enjoyer from our Krishna conscious activities and want to avoid distress in our distress Krishna conscious zone. So it's that's why we come out of this feeling mode and central mode when whatever situation Krishna puts us, and sometimes Krishna will frustrate us. Okay, everything is Krishna's orchestration. That's why Krishna says, "Mate karmastu karmani." Don't be attached to not doing your duty. That's why I said not feeling based, service based. And that's how slowly Krishna will puts us in various situations that will purify our consciousness of um, um, Krishna centered. Did I touch the point?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Yes, yeah. Yes, Prabhuji.
Maybe I touched somebody else's point.
No, Prabhuji, it's helpful. It's never Krishna consciousness is never black and white. Actually,
Yeah, there are many angles that goes inside. What can I do?
Pray, Prabhuji, please pray for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome, Mata. Thank you. Anything else, or we'll end here? Okay. Thank you very much. If I spoke anything wrong and if I unintentionally hurted somebody, please forgive me as a humble servant. Vancha kalpa tarubhesha kripa sindhubhe eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anandakoti Vaishnava ki jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Dandavat pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare
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 Krishna,
Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.